By a show of hands, how many of you have ever been asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Now, I want you to leave them up for me for a second if you can. How many of you are still trying to answer that question? Look around the room just for a second. There's a lot of hands up. You can go ahead and put them down now. How is it that a room this amazing doesn't know what they want to be when they grow up? I want you to pause on that. We're going to come back to it. I want to tell you a story, and a story that led me to two discoveries about this idea of purpose and meaning. And the story takes place on March 4th, 2011. It was my third Friday as the first ever director of talent strategy and talent acquisition for P.F. Chang's China Bistro and Pei Wei Asian Diner. They're brother-sister companies with one another. And it must have been a higher power. I hit the office lottery because my office was in the hallway with all of the executives. So I was like in the nucleus of what was happening at this organization very early on. And on this third Friday, at about 11:50, 10 minutes before lunch, every phone in this hallway, cell phone, office phone, just lit up. Not mine, but everybody else's. And it was odd. Now, granted, I had only had 2 other Fridays up to that point to compare it to, but it was odd. And then all of a sudden, silence. And you could feel something was not right. The next thing I remember is the then president of Pei Wei Asian Diner running down the hallway, bracing himself in my door frame with his arms up, and he said the following: "Brian, Sheriff Joe Arpaio just raided the Pei Wei Asian Diner at 7th Street and Glendale Avenue. We've lost our kitchen staff. And if the rumors are true, there's a good possibility we're going to lose the rest of our staff in the 15 other Pei Wei Asian Diner locations throughout the valley. I need you to find me a shit ton of wok cooks now." It's important for you to know that the previous 11 years of my career were spent helping build an organization here in town called Jobbing.com. I started there in the year 2000 and I left in the year 2011. And if you think about that time frame, the recruitment advertising market was going through a massive transformation from print to digital. So P.F. Chang's and Pei Wei didn't hire me because I had some amazing ability to hire back of the house or front of the house kitchen staff and restaurant staff. What I did have, though, was a front row seat of this evolution of what was happening in recruitment advertising, recruitment marketing, and technology. And I promise you, nowhere on my resume was there a bullet point that said, "Successfully have hired a shit ton of wok cooks." It was in this moment that it began to dawn on me, I might not be in the right company or in the right job. However, I couldn't just up and leave. So I did what I thought I should do, which was help. With the help of a group of amazing people, we did everything we knew how to do. We ran ads in the Arizona Republic. We ran ads in the New Times. We ran ads on job boards. We were resume searching. We were doing job fairs. We were doing open houses. We were doing employee referral bonuses. We were begging people. And unfortunately, we were having some, but not the ultimate success we needed. And if you're like me, I do some of my best thinking in the shower. So as this has been going on, I'm showering one morning, and it dawns on me. And maybe it's because it's the hot water, or because, Aaron, I am an amazing singer in the shower. What it is about the acoustics of that room, something else, maybe you guys are like me as well. But it dawns on me, I think back to part of my previous experience at Jobbing, and we had formed a partnership with a refugee resettlement organization in town called the International Rescue Committee. So I think to myself, wait a minute, refugees who come from faraway places, many of them come from the Far East, maybe there's a chance that many of them are much more naturally gifted in wok cooking than what we're looking for in the United States. That actually wasn't even meant to be funny. So I reach out to a handful of them, and lo and behold, Lutheran Social Services of the Southwest takes a meeting with us. We bring some of the Payway training team, and we go sit down with the folks there, and we devise a game plan of how we're going to take these refugees who all they want is to begin to pursue a path to achieving something that they've never had before. And there was an amazing language barrier, as you might imagine. The ability to communicate was so difficult, but through the help of the Lutheran Social Services group, the Payway training team, we were able to fill a variety of additional roles. Not all of them, but it was this channel, this artery of individuals that we were able to tap into that made a massive difference. And in that moment, one of the two discoveries I want to share with you is that purpose and meaning exists everywhere in everyday moments. You just need to look for it and choose it. The second part of this story is a little bit different than the first. And as the leader of talent acquisition, the Changs and Payway organization was going through what I guess was its normal turnover. And some leaders were changing. And so my boss asked me to engage with some executive search firms to bring in some new leaders for the ones who were leaving. And I had never purchased executive search services before in my life. So I wasn't sure what to expect, other than the fact that if these are the folks that charge what they charge and have the brand names they do and have the decades of experience that they do doing it, they're probably really, really good at it. And so they came in, they ran us through their processes, and all the while that this is happening, something continues to emerge for me, and I felt alone in this knowing that this is too transactional. They're just grabbing somebody from BJ's or from Cheesecake or from Olive Garden who's doing this exact job and plucking them and sticking them in our organization because the resume is right or because it's the next rung up the corporate ladder. It didn't make sense to me. When are we going to get to the part about whether or not that individual, that human being who lives behind that resume actually aligns with the mission of what Changs and Payway is all about? Is this really all there is to this recruiting game at the highest of high levels? The leaders, the people who set the vision, who everyone else is supposed to follow. And yet it continued over and over. And in that moment, I had a choice. To either bitch and moan about it or do something about it. So I decided to place a phone call. It was probably the greatest phone call I've ever made to a friend of mine, one of the most generous individuals I've ever known. His name is Max Hansen, who at the time had been running an incredibly successful staffing organization. And he too had been looking to do something different. And so together we dreamt up this idea that we could forge a brand new path in leadership search, not by simply matching a resume and a job description, but by digging so much deeper to the core of who someone is, their dreams, their desires, and the people they want to do it with, and match that to the organizations that actually do have a higher purpose beyond just making money. And that was almost 6 years ago. And it's been an amazing ride. And I will tell you, we almost stopped dead in our tracks before we got started, because when we decided that we were going to call this thing Purpose-Based Leadership Search, we visited the good old trusty Google and started putting in every possible search string of purpose-based search, purpose-based recruiting, purpose-based anything you could think, and there were no results. And for any of you who know Max and I, you know we're not that smart to have thought of this. But we did it anyways, and here we are. And it has been the most rewarding, fulfilling thing that I've spent my time doing. And we have attracted the most amazing group of individuals because they care about making a difference in the world through business. And the best way to do that is to find leaders who understand it's not about just what's on your resume, it's about what's in your heart. And when you can combine those two things, you can achieve anything. I want to go back to my question that I asked all of you at the beginning. What do you want to be when you grow up? I think we've been asking ourselves the wrong question, because the focus of that question forces you to think about choosing to be something, a marketer, an accountant, whatever it is. I think the world of work looks very different than the world we're living in today, and I think we need to ask ourselves a different question. And it's not all that different from what do you want to be? But I think by asking this and answering this question, we will create an unstoppable force to use business as a force for good. And the question that I challenge you to ask yourself, your sons, your daughters, your nieces, your nephews, your friends, your family members, everyone you care about is not what do you want to be when you grow up. It's what do you want to be a part of when you grow up. Because when you can answer that, what you choose to do inside the environment of what's happening mission and purpose-wise, the options are unlimited. You can be anything and do anything, and it's amazing. Thank you very much.